Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about ideology versus science. Now, there's been, or there is currently and has been for quite a while, an effort to convince people through the news media and indeed every medium in schools. Children applied with propaganda at levels that have never been seen before, certainly not in my lifetime at least. And the claim is that all the information we see is driven by hard science, whether it's pandemics or climate change or anything. Is driven by science. And if you disagree with it or even question it, then you're a science denier. If you're a science denier, then you are a fascist. If you're a fascist, you're a white supremacist. And if you're a white supremacist, you're a Nazi. And if you're a Nazi, it means you're Hitler. So this is the sort of the paradigm, if you like, that we're in currently. But this is not new. This idea of saying that it's not ideology. No, it's science. Facts, hard science. And people better than you and smarter than you understand this. So if you disagree, again, you're a moron or deranged or you're Hitler. So, but this is something that's gone on before in the communist era, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But looking at the, say, children's school books now, there's not even any attempt to be accurate or factual anymore. It's just straight ideological propaganda. Now, there's some books that I've seen that are in school rooms now about climate change. You know, we're all going to die, and it just totally pushing the globalist agenda and the talking points and the slogans. There's no effort to detach it from that. Yet they're claiming, no, this is science. Nothing to do with the globalist agenda, nothing to do with World Economic Forum, nothing to do with ideology or radicals or activists, nothing to do with that. This is hard science, when it's absolutely categorically not. It's outrageous lies. And this is being pushed on children, school children, as being fact. And really, even if you sort of Google a lot of this stuff or look it up online through any medium, you'll find that the approved narrative is what will come to the top. You can go 10, 11, 12 pages, through the search results before you come to something that's independent. Now, the thing that sort of gets me about that, if for example, climate change is so bad, then you don't need to tell lies, because if it's so bad, you've got so much verifiable data there that's been arrived at through independent sources and through independent peer review, and has been tested, scientifically tested as being accurate. So if it is that bad, you don't need to make things up, because there's just so much stuff there. But the fact that they claim it's terrible as Armageddon, but they have to make so much stuff up, and it's very put together along ideological lines rather than scientific lines, and then to falsely claim it's scientific and independent and impartial, then you know that the situation is nowhere near as bad as they say it is, and that the emergency that they claim is just a cover story for them to take away your rights and destroy your financial future. But they categorically insist, no, it's not, it's science. And if anyone that's prepared to even a little bit of work can determine that's absolute nonsense. But we've been sort of here before, as in the world has been here before, in the communist bloc, and I'll use the Soviet sort of Union and the East European countries that they controlled. If you look at the movies from Soviet movies from the time, if you dig around, you can find them online, and some have got subtitles and that sort of thing. There's even a few that you'll find that have been dubbed in English. But if you have a look at those movies, they are at pains to push the propaganda that the Soviet Union, its government, its method of government, the way it goes about making decisions, is based purely and absolutely and totally in science. There is nothing ideological about it at all. It is pure science, and all the scripts of the movies sort of push this. That whenever there's one movie I'm thinking of. It was a bunch of Soviet astronauts, and they've landed on some planet, and they're deciding what to do, and they have this almost comical scene where they, what are we going to do? Well, as we all know, we rely only on science. Can't be any emotion here, science only. And no ideology, and they don't even admit to ideology. That isn't even admitted it exists, and they claim it's to be science. And they have these very sort of workers' committee type meetings and awareness raising meetings, but done all in this alleged sort of thing of science, or exclusively science. Now that's the complete opposite of how the Soviet Union did work. Everything was ideological, purely ideological. And it did. I mean, if they were calculating, the metallurgy of a space rocket or something, I don't doubt they would have used science specifically for that. But everything was ideological in the sense of what they would invest in, what they would do, how they would go about it, and all that sort of stuff. So there was a big move in the 50s to use what was called the virgin lands, as the Soviets called it, to grow grain, to increase the amount of acreage under cultivation for growing grain in state government farms, and this was mass sort of communal farming type stuff. But now any sort of basic first year agricultural student in the West could have told you that those lands just didn't have the soil nutrients in them, and the cost of replenishing those nutrients would have required massive investment in terms of irrigation and various other forms of fertilization and other infrastructure and so on. But the Soviets went ahead because ideologically they wanted to sort of believe that it was so. So in the Soviet media at the time, Pravda and that sort of thing, they had all these articles from expert scientists who said no, this is the right thing to do, and then the politicians, the Soviet politicians would say, see, it's not us, the experts have said it. We're only doing what the experts said. And just think about that sort of paradigm when you look at, say, the COVID pandemic, how the politicians, it's not us. Well, we're not making that decision. The experts are. We follow the science. The doctor's word is law. We're just doing what the doctors say. Nothing to do with ideology, nothing to do with politics. It's science. And do you not agree with that? You fucking science denier, Hitler. So this was very much part of the Soviet thing. But what's interesting looking at these movies and television shows and so on is the lengths they go to. They're almost desperately trying to say that it's not ideology, it's science, when the complete opposite was the case. So they're trying to brainwash people or convince people that no, ideology had nothing to do with it. It's all science, when it was clearly not the case. Now, no one really believed them. And so after 70 years of brainwashing, communist brainwashing, I was astounded at how quickly the Russia and the Soviet satellites, how quickly they reverted, they dropped communism and all the ideology and all the bits and pieces. So, the communists made a big show of equity, for example, and within, almost days of the Soviet Union falling to pieces, all those millions of jobs that were absurdly created for minorities and women and so on, they all disappeared, and women were no longer CEOs of these funny quangos, but all, went back to being hairdressers and that sort of stuff. So it was crazy how quickly it fell to pieces. I would have thought it would have taken decades to sort of decommunize, to decommunize these people, but it didn't. It was almost immediate and instant, and I was quite surprised by that. It went from being this so-called socialist equity paradise to being a patriarchy in days, which was again quite surprising. So the point being that no one ever believed, and I've spoken to people that have came from Russia who remember Russia as, or the Soviet Union rather, as a communist thing, and they say, oh, no one believed the nonsense that the government was telling them. Everybody knew it was lies. You couldn't say that, because if you said it was nonsense or it was all lies and so on, you could end up getting in all sorts of trouble. You can end up in prison, for goodness sakes, or secret police would come around and beat the shit out of you and the like, but because they had arbitrary arrest and all sorts of things, or they could invoke emergency powers. You're an enemy of the people, that sort of thing, and then that meant you had no legal rights suddenly. So, which is what we're seeing today. You were in the Capitol on January 6th. You've got no legal rights. And so we're going down the same path. So this idea of insisting it's science and not ideology is very much something that's happening in the West today at all sorts of levels, all across the media, political announcements, the scientific community, and so on. And any scientist or academic that isn't on board with the propaganda just finds suddenly that they don't have a job, or they're not getting any research money and the like, which is exactly how it was in the communist era in the Soviet Union and the communist satellite countries. Same sort of thing. But again, the interesting thing was no one actually ever believed it. Even the children who'd grown up with known nothing but communism and known nothing but the propaganda, they didn't believe it. Nobody believed it. Everyone pretended to believe, and the communist government pretended that the people believed, but no one actually believed. No one believed the lies and the propaganda, but it was just everywhere. And I think we're seeing the same thing today. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.